getting people to play test it and say, hey, okay, I did the spell build and I always lose this fight. I'm very frustrated. And then I can be like, oh, okay, I can change that.
Did players ever, like, bouncing off of that, did players ever, like, surprise you in the way that they beat certain things? Like, you like, oh, this is how I expect the player to do it. And instead, they do it, like, a way you weren't expecting.
Yeah, definitely. So very late in development, I added this kind of like this joke item that gives you an ability that can make you cast this buff on an ally, and the ally explodes and dies and kills things around. It does like a bit of damage. It basically like self-destructs your ally and does high damage to things around it. And it doesn't do like a lot of damage, but unless you like build around it, and I didn't think anybody would actually build around it. And then Winter Gaming on his stream like figured it out instantly and just breezed through like 10 levels. And I was like, I didn't think anyone would do that.
Did you pass that, or did you just leave?
I think I changed it a little bit so it's not like crazy strong.
Terry, you're gonna die.
No, he's got a bunch of friends now. The game gets easier once you have a bunch of friends.
You know, usually that's the opposite. The game should get like hurt. No? Oh, okay.
well, easier in the sense that if you lose one character, it's not game over.
Oh, like it's not game over.
Yeah,
Right.
The stakes change.
Right. Fair on. Oh, it's like he's using the model for oh my god, what's his name? The engineer.
Carax.
I didn't like it that much.
Has a cool model though.
Yeah.
Does it? Yeah, I didn't find it. I found Phoenix to be Phoenix.
I didn't like the 4 legs.
No, really?
He's like a centaur, Protoss.
Yeah,
What's up with that?
Kind of weird. But I think that's they've kind of portrayed some Protoss that way. Like obviously with anything that gets turned into an immortal has the 4 legs, or stalkers have the 4 legs, or whatever. Someone's asking on stream, like, can you elaborate at all on like the back and forth between you and Blizzard? Like, at least in terms of like, were they giving you any ideas or directing you at all in terms of what they want, or did you have
or get feedback?
Yeah.
I definitely got some feedback throughout the development process. I was mostly just told to kind of so I originally pitched a few game ideas, and this was essentially the one we all chose to go forward with. And once that decision had been made, they pretty much just left it in my hands. And the original plot, for instance, of this game was way different than what it is now.
Was there a point where they were checking for lore? Does that not matter to them?
No, I don't think they really cared about that at all.
So, was there an approval process to get, like, if someone else is going to come and follow your footsteps and make a premium mod, is there like an approval process to this? Like what? Like, I'm thinking in my mind like Apple, right? And it has to go through this like back and forth, making sure it like hits the game and doesn't break the game. Like, is there a process to becoming a premium mod?
Not that I know about. That's really up to Blizzard. And
they just like let you go in that.
Well, it's interesting hearing that, like, the way that you developed this. I didn't expect you to say this because, of course, Direct Strike has a completely different development path.
Oh yeah,
where it's just existed basically since like 2011 or something, and so he's just iterated on the game, whereas yours is almost like a made-to-order, brand new game.
Yeah.
Whereas Desert Strike / Direct Strike was simply on the arcade, and it was definitely one of the 3 most popular. So that's kind of interesting that they went both ways in this, like taking a popular one and then taking a brand new one and launching them at the same time. So yeah, it kind of does beg the question of I don't know what anyone could do to get into this program.
Well, I'm wondering, what's really curious is that you two are still the only 2 premium mods.
Yeah.
All right. But why? Like, is it just hard, or is it unfeasible, or is there just a lot of gates for people to get into it? Like, I'm trying to wrap my head, like, and obviously you probably don't. That's obviously a Blizzard question.
Right,
but, like,
right.
You know, do you have any speculations, or do you just like whatever? We're gonna take as many all the monies ourselves. Like,
I don't know. I mean, that's a good question. I don't know if I'm even allowed to speculate on that. That might enough. Start getting too sensitive.
I'll speculate. So my speculation would be that these two were obviously a test project.
Right.
They're now assessing the commercial success of this, and then they're going to determine what their strategy is to build. So they've essentially A/B tested a game that was made to order, and B tested a game that was already popular, and then from there they're going to determine: do I go and seek out modders to create a brand new
or do we take
thing, or do I just take the ones that are already popular and promote them?
Right. So this actually ties into a question in the chat then. With obviously not revealing any numbers, did you find it met expectations, below expectations, or above expectations?
There weren't really expectations to begin with.
So above expectations.
So, in that sense, yes, above expectations. Still, go tell your friends to buy the game. Yeah. Is there like any holidays coming up or anything?
Like a Blizzard summer sale.
Yeah.
Canada Day or whatever.
It's a great Canada Day.
Yeah. Whatever you Americans do.
So, like, in terms of like, would you make another one? Like, do you think it's something that you could do again?
Maybe. That's a big maybe. It was a lot of work, and it would be a lot less work now because I basically spent more than half the time I spent making this game, just kind of making the game systems and like work like data pipelines and things like that. It wouldn't take another 2 years to make another 30 levels. It would take another couple months maybe. But it's really a matter of finding the time to do that and talking to Blizzard about that and things like that. One thing I'd probably do first is add some sort of replayable mode, some sort of endless dungeon type thing, and I'd want to add that as a free update. But this is just an ideation. There's no timeline on this, and I don't want to. Like, I don't want to say that it's even like ever coming. It's just something I'd like to do, but finding time is hard.
Well, I guess like it's like in my mind, I think about when I heard about the Premium Arcade, I immediately thought of like the Dota like store or mod store. Like they ain't fairly robust until like Steam, like until Valve took all their money. But prior to that, it was a very robust and for some people very financially viable. Like, would this be something that you could build upon? Like you make like a little Pirate Arcade Studios and like you have a team of 3 people and you just make mods?
That might be feasible, maybe not financially smart. We'll see.
Okay, fair enough.
Yeah. So one thing kind of on that topic is a lot of people since the beginning of StarCraft 2 have been trying to speculate on why isn't the arcade what it was in like Warcraft 3? Like why isn't it's a huge big thing? And my own speculation is that there's a bit of if you were going to make a mod that was a really good game, why make it in another game? Why not just make, like we've seen, like essentially LoL and Dota and even tower defense games and like pretty much anything that used to be a custom game in Warcraft 3 is now a genre of game on its own.
Yeah.
And the people making those are making billions of dollars. So what does motivate someone to make something in a game like this versus just try and launch it on your own? And obviously there are pros and cons, but what do you think?
I mean, I'd say for me, it was the fact that it started very much as a hobby. I was never like, I'm going to be a game designer. That's never something I said to myself.
What did you want to be instead?
I don't know, like a spy or something. Something that sounded cool.
All right.
I did eventually say to myself, I want to be a game designer. That was like 2 years ago. So
Just like when you started.
So like 3 years after your design.
I should probably get serious about this. Yeah.
When you're designing ARK,
Makes sense. Like it turns out 2 people are that big. Yeah.
But you're right. So people that aren't that serious about it still want to get a feel for it. It's a lot less scary than trying to learn coding and jump into Unity. When you do this and you have all of this art supplied for you, you have all these tools that make it a lot easier to quickly build something playable. Right? Like you can open the map editor, put down like 50 Marines and 100 Zerglings, and you've technically made something playable in like 5 seconds.
Right.
And I do find most of the games, or at least most of the more popular games on the arcades, are very StarCrafty. They don't deviate much from that. Like say the tug of war type games. They just take the StarCraft units, put them together. Or the micro training games. They just take the StarCraft units and put them together. Like they're not doing anything ridiculous like compared to it. So I can see how that's an appeal.
Yeah. I mean, I think that's also because a lot of like StarCraft fans are really into StarCraft.
Yeah.
And not necessarily anything outside of that, especially with how much Blizzard pushed esports part.
Yeah.
That part of StarCraft.
Just want to quick check-in on Terra here. He is dying. Is this a boss?
This is the first boss.
Okay.
So this is supposed to be a little bit tricky.
Yeah. This one took me a couple tries, I think.
He's already lost.
He's lost. Yeah.
He's lost one character already, and he's not very healthy right now in terms of characters.
Last legs, huh?
Yeah, just the last throws. So,
how many maps have you, or arcade things have you made in StarCraft 2? Do you think total?
I think I've only actually published like maybe 4 or 5, and like this being my 5th. I tend to really focus on one project for a long time, and try to release something big and interesting and unique. Not even necessarily a big game, but at the very least, like polished and different.
Yeah, makes sense.
Like one of the things that I was really did you know the StarCraft engine can do this style of game? Like when you first started doing this?
When I first started doing this, it couldn't.
Oh.
I mean, you could do a lot of it, but a lot of the features that let me do this came from later updates. Heart of the Swarm and Legacy of the Void introduced engine changes that let some of this stuff be possible.
Yeah. How much? Yeah, and I've seen posts on that sort of topic, and I've never bothered to try and make anything myself. But how good is Blizzard at supporting this? Because I kind of got to imagine there's probably just a hardcore community of like 50 people that make anything.
It's about 200, and we all sit in one Discord.
Nice.
But there's a Blizzard employee or two that also sits there, and will sometimes help, which is nice. And they listen to feature requests and things like that. Sometimes we get them.
Nice.
So, with designing a game like this, and I think the first time I was introduced to the length of what the engine can do was a mod called StarCraft Universe, and it was like an MMO RPG within StarCraft. I'm surprised I didn't become a premium mod. By the way, that kind of surprised me. So when you explored, did you push the engine to its limits with this, or like you said you worked with it, but did you go beyond certain areas? Like, did you try to change things through the work in this engine?
Not a whole lot. I'm of a mindset of work smart, not work hard. If an engine doesn't want to do something, then you should probably use a different engine.
Yeah.
I guess what I was trying to say is, was there items in this that you wanted to do, and like you just like you wanted, and the engine just wasn't going to let it? So did you just abandon that idea, or did you work towards asking for change? Obviously, the answer is you just worked around it. But.
Right. I don't think so. There's pretty much like two things that would have helped me make this that aren't currently in the engine. One is, so your save file is saved locally on your machine,
Right.
which is
Like if you want to take it to, if you really like want to go, you know, on the road, you can't really.
yeah, you can't. There's no like cloud saving. There's no Steam Sync for this, and it also means you can hack it essentially. You can give yourself a level 10 character at level 1. Or you can also, this is a fun bug that no one has discovered. It's not really a bug, it's more of just a quirk of the game, is you can actually rename your party members by editing your save file. And that's the only way to change the party members' names, but I'm pretty sure it will also break the game. But I don't know.
I'll try
it
again.
Yeah, there you go.
I'm definitely gonna.
How to mod a mod.
Yeah, there you go. The other thing is, so right now I have a lot of like 1 and 2 star reviews on this game that simply say too short, and that's it, and like no other feedback, which is really, that's like a good problem to have.
I think that's a really good problem.
When you have a game,
people want to play the game.
The reason the game isn't any longer than it is, other than I ran out of time to make it, is I literally ran out of like physical space on the map to like add more rooms.
Right.
Because there's a maximum map size, and I used all of it.
Oh, okay.
That,
Does this all take place in like one map?
Yeah, one giant map.
Does that mean, could you change locations? Is that like a thing, or is that beyond the scope of this?
I do some kind of tricks to make it look like you are, because I have been doing this a lot, but
this is all one map.
It's one big map.
Interesting.
Lots of smaller maps would have let you visit a whole bunch of interesting places,
So
and
you
so
just
there's
change the tile set.
Right, and so there's some limitations that I had to keep in mind while designing this and writing the story and all that. Right.
Yeah, that's funny because in this, you're right. It doesn't feel that way at all. It feels like you teleport to a brand new area and do all this stuff, and like a whole different tile set, and you're in a forest or whatever.
Smoke and mirrors.
But yeah, exactly. But it would be interesting to see how that was laid out in one thing. But I definitely think that's an issue too. You brought up StarCraft Universe.
Yeah.
Anything like that was trying to be like an MMO or anything expensive.
Yeah.
Like I think StarCraft Universe, I haven't played much of it. I think they've had to make like 6 different maps.
Yeah.
And then you're just supposed to play them in order.
Yeah.
But it means that you couldn't like your character couldn't save from one to the next because it's a brand new mod.
Is the limitation of this, like map size? You mentioned map size before. Is that's like the total maximum of tiles for like a StarCraft proper map?
Yeah,
that's the same amount.
Yeah.
What is that? 250.
256 by 256.
Wow, it doesn't feel like that. I guess because we're close up, but
yeah, and there's transitions in it that you're not just walking. Like I guess you like teleport to this place, or there's like a little almost cutscene and it goes over.
I think Ted's gonna win this one, by the way.
Nice.
Maybe.
I think he has everyone pretty much full health.
I don't know. There's the ads out there now, though.
The what? Oh, like
There's
the little younglings?
Yeah.
The voidlings?
Whenever he uses a special ability, the voidlings come.
Yeah, this fight's really hard if you don't have AoE abilities.
Like, is there a tech tree?
Oh yeah, there's a talent tree.
Talent tree.
Yeah.
Talent tree.
I wanted to like completely redesign it, and that's something I just ran out of time to be able to do.
Could you do that? Can you do like an update that kind of like, shuffles the board a little bit? Is that something that you can do, like physically deploy without getting the ire of higher ups or customers? Or
as long as I don't break the game, I think it's fine.
Yeah, likely.
So that really begs the question then. Do you find that people were receptive to the idea of a premium arcade, at least from your perspective?
I think so. I think Blizzard launched it in the best possible way they could have. They watched other companies try to monetize user-generated content, and there was backlash to that because it was done poorly, frankly.
Other people or Blizzard?
No, not Blizzard. Like Bethesda's Creation Club.
Oh, yeah.
And there are multiple tries of trying to monetize Skyrim mods, basically. And I mean, Dota 2 has had monetized user-generated content for a long time, and nobody complains about it because it's done well in a way that makes sense. So Blizzard's like one very selective, curated approach. I think is key in choosing a low number of people that were dedicated to this, like 2, but there's a quality control there. That's if there was 100 people, then Blizzard wouldn't be able to make sure that all 100 of them are the kind of people that are like, okay, so if the game has a bug on day 1 or day 10 that gets added with a new patch or something, I will be up like 24 hours to fix that bug.
Yeah,
you can't guarantee that's going to happen when you have so many
like the
people.
Apple approach versus like the Android approach, where it's like gated garden, hard rules to get in kind of thing, versus like anybody can publish and let the cards sort themselves out.
And I think the other big part of it is that nothing that was previously free is suddenly being charged. And
yeah, I think that's a big key.
That's a big key. And there's a third point, but I think...
And the team, like this makes sense because it's a single player experience. It's brand new and it's a single player thing. The other one is a team game and only one person has to own it in order for everyone to play. So one person can buy it and then the other people can play it for free on top of it. And I think that's a pretty frictionless way to put in that, again, doesn't offend people's sensibilities.
And it's still not taking away anything that was free. Yeah. It's only for the new game modes, and then it adds cosmetics on top of that.
Right.
Speaking of cosmetics, can you do like microtransactions?
I can't. I don't. I don't have that power.
I mean, like, is that something that could be done in like within the confines of the parameters that Blizzard has set out for the monetization? Like, and you make your base game and maybe have little things that are 99 cents.
I don't think that's in place at the moment.
Right. Okay.
I'm not sure it's 100% ruled out.
Yeah, I'm sure they could do it.
Like if you made like the base game of this, and then you're like, oh,
this is episode 2.
Episode 2 or whatever. And then like you want, maybe you get a level 10 character, 99 cents, and instant leveled up or something like, you know what people, I don't buy hats, but like whatever people do when they do microtransactions, that would, I would imagine in my mind that would be an interesting way to keep content fresh and continuous like flow of addiction.
Yeah, you gotta control the addiction.
Oh,
for sure.
You gotta give them a hit, just a little bit of a hit. The first one's free, and then you got them.
Definitely the case. Is it so? I guess now that you've done this, have you decided you do want to be a game designer?
Yeah.
In general, and what sort of things do you want to be working on next? You mentioned that you have been doing something with Unity. Like, have you just been kind of learning that, or what sort of projects would you want to work
on? I don't really know what my next big project is going to be. I definitely want more team experience because it's after working on something for 2 years alone, and really the only way to make something really, really great is with teams. So that's definitely a direction I'd like to move in. Other than that, I don't really know what's next.
Don't die, Tara. Save Farron. Save him.
He's fine.
Dive on the Void Watcher.
He's so close too. Just
he got this. He's got this time.
So then I'm guessing then you're working on a lot of smaller projects at the moment, man.
Yeah,
Oh my god. I'm sorry.
It'll be fine.
It'll be fine. Main character's full health. High Twitch is full health. Yeah, I usually juggle a handful of smaller projects to pay the bills.
Right. So, in that regard, then, would you? Oh no!
No, they're fine. They can move.
They can move.
Oh, okay. I thought he was doing a special move. I was like, oh.
He does, but it takes a turn.
Oh,
no! Yeah, no, it's fine.
Oh. I was like, so it takes a turn and then okay.
Yep.
But then the ads are gonna come in. They gotta finish
They
this
can do the
guy
void
off.
leg. He has to finish.
They gotta finish this guy off.
You probably just dive it, maybe. Ooh. Okay. No, that wasn't bad.
He used to spawn a lot more.
Yeah.
He used to be like double that when
And
the
then
game
did you
launched.
like turn
And then
it down?
yeah.
Yeah. How do you measure that? Is that with the amount of people who complain about dying?
Pretty much, yeah.
You probably should just dive.
No.
I feel like that's like your best chance.
Yeah, that's what I was saying before.
Like,
But he
it's-
ran away. He ran away.
I think he thought he could like. Oh my god! I think he's gonna just die right.
This is close.
Oh my
It's-
god!
Yeah, you pretty much need an AoE of some sort in this fight.
Oh my god! Okay,
Oh.
like it's either this turn or you're dead. Like, oh my god! This has to kill him.
He's lucky it takes out the ads too.
Oh my god!
Yeah.
Could you imagine if he like got killed by
Good fight,
little
yeah.
mobs? Oh my god! Who's your daddy? Holy crap!
Nice.
That is.
So when you start something like that, well, you mentioned pitching like a few ideas to decide which one to go ahead with. Do you generally start with like a concept of just this is the type of game or this is the experience that I want to go for? Like, do you have like a genre in mind or a style in mind and say I'd like to make something like that, and then kind of work from there, or what's your beginning point?
I usually start with either a really strong like experience or like story idea, and like okay, so what game type, what genre makes sense with this story,
Okay.
or like I want to experiment with this genre, or I have like a set of mechanics,
Right.
and just like a set of mechanics, and then I think, okay, how do I package these mechanics? What do the characters look like? What should the theme of the game be around these mechanics?
So which one did you start with ARKstar?
ARKstar was the art. I wanted to make an RPG. I wanted to make a StarCraft RPG. That was the thought.
Well, what's your favorite RPG?
I like so really old school like JRPGs, and probably one of the bigger inspirations for this was Super Mario RPG, because it was also a turn-based JRPG set in an unusual world that was an existing IP.
Nice.
Yeah,
Nice.
except I'm not Square Enix, but I'm close.
Well, they were at Square Enix,
Yeah.
Well,
Exactly.
they didn't.
I contend that they're not now.
Shots fired.
I think they quit about 2-3 years.
So, is there any particular developer or studio that you like align yourself with, or take inspiration for, or look up to?
I really like Supergiant Games. They made Transistor and Bastion, and most recently Pyre. I really like that they're a small studio, and that they make like all of their games I've connected with in some way, shape, or form. And music for all of them is amazing.
Is there a particular like philosophy that they have that you like?
They have an interesting team philosophy, but that doesn't really apply to me because I'm usually just me.
But I presume that if you want to be in a team, so what's what's a team philosophy?
Of how to, so when you're developing games as a team, you have to have systems of like, okay, so who gets to decide like what part of the game. You can't really make art by committee. I think that's like a well-known quip people say. And one thing Supergiant does is basically one person is an expert at one particular part of the game because they're a small studio. So they're just like, if there's a tie on sound, anything related to sound, it is the music guys. He has the final say, and we can talk about it. But at the end of the day, one person is responsible for making that call.
Is that different than other studios?
I don't know. I have no idea.
I would imagine though.
Yeah.
Usually, the bigger something is, the less. That's weirdly both democratic and dictatorial, but it's like
I think it's probably
it's diversified. Each person has their own little fiefdom. Whereas I'd imagine a big studio, obviously, you have to get approval above.
Or you have to reach consensus
Yeah,
or something
exactly.
like that.
Oh, consensus, that would probably take forever. Oh, here we go. We got Jungle World.
Yeah, see,